Michael, thank you for taking the time. But first question, does anyone call you Mike or are you Michael to everybody?
My dad used to call me Mike, but I'm Michael. I stick with that.
Now I know. Well, congratulations on A Little White Lie happening. How long was it from coming up with the idea to actually seeing a release date and knowing it was coming out?
It was about a decade, which doesn't mean, you know, it started out. I mean, I came across the material when I walked into a bookstore in Massachusetts and heard Chris Belden reading from his novel Shriver, and I optioned the book on the spot. I bought a copy and had him write a little option agreement on the front page, and I gave him $1, I think. And then, we had some lawyers come and kind of seal that up. I think it was, I think it was a couple of years before I actually had a script. I have 3, 4, 5 projects going at once all the time. You need to do that to, pay your kids' college tuition and everything else that happens. So so I think it was probably 2015, 2016. I finally had a script I was happy with.
That is a fantastic optioning story. That reminds me of the Joe Esterhaus selling, I think it was Fatal Attraction on a cocktail napkin, or was it Basic Instinct on a cocktail napkin?
Yeah, I know the story. I don't know which one that was. Yeah.
Whichever one it was. I mean, you mentioned having the 4 or 5 projects going on at the same time. So when was this completed with relation to the last project that came out?
Well, the last film I directed was 10 years ago, because I had just wrapped that when I walked into the bookstore and heard Chris reading. But I do a lot of film work. I've sold a lot of scripts, and I've done script doctoring and
Yes,
polishes for people and stuff like that. Stuff that I don't really talk about.
well, I sorry to cut you off. I was mentioning that because I know from you coming onto my radar that you overcame a lot of health difficulties. So some people, when they're battling serious stuff, can't work, and then other people use it as the distraction from, hey, this is a terrible situation. So in your case, were you able to stay creative when you were at your worst?
Not as a writer. What happened was Michael Shannon was already attached to the film, and we kind of had a cast attached, and I had done a lot of pre-production on it when I was diagnosed with cancer. And it wasn't the kind of take a few pills, and it was like several major surgeries and a long bout of chemo. So I lost almost the entire year of 2019. And Michael stuck with the project. When we were able to pick it up again, we had to recast it because everybody was off doing other things. So Michael was really the thing that made it go. The thing I actually did to be creative was I'm a photographer as well, and I started walking around New York City where I was living to be near I was living near the hospital, and I started walking very slowly because I could barely move.
Right.
And I saw a very different city that way, and I started doing a photography project where I'd stop and talk to people on the streets and photograph them. And I did that all on my Instagram. And it got really popular. I picked up about 6,000 Instagram followers doing that. But that's how I stayed creative. I didn't have the focus to write anything. I binge watched a lot of TV.
Well, it's fantastic that Michael saw the project through like that, but he's not the only fantastic name in this project between Kate Hudson, Zach Braff, etc. Who was the first person to come on board? Was it Michael Shannon?
Yeah, it was Michael. Michael was the man. I think Michael really related to the material and to Shriver as a character. I think a lot of actors do, and a lot of writers do. It's a very common kind of feeling of is this really me? Who am I?
Right.
So Michael stuck with it. He never wavered. And so I was ready to go to work again at the end of 2019, and Kate was the second one to sign on, and with those two attached to it, things started fielding a lot of calls from agents wanting to get their clients into the movie.
Right. Are you allowed to say what movie is next, or is it all A Little White Lie forever and ever? Amen.
Well, I want people to go see A Little White Lie. Just
Yeah.
go do that. What's next is that I've got another script I've written called Inheritance. It's based on a memoir of my wife's, actually, Danny Shapiro. And I wrote that script, and that script attracted. I don't want to direct it because I'm actually a character in it. And Killer Films is doing it, and the script got to Agnieszka Holland, the great Polish director, Academy Award winner, and she read it and wanted to, and is going to direct the film, but she wanted me to make a director's. I'm just finishing up a director's draft of the script right now, and I don't know when that's going to start filming.
So keep checking IMDb and Instagram, and that's how you'll find out the latest and the greatest from Michael Maren.
Yeah, I'm all over my Instagram.
And then the last question I have for you has nothing to do with The Little White Lie. I keep saying the name because that qualifies as plugging it, because the people have to see the Saban Paramount Pictures production that it is. But the guitar behind you looks like a combination of a jazz master and a Strat. What is that?
It's a Godine. It sounds like a Strat. I'm a horrible guitar player, but when the thing they say about writing, the important thing about writing is ass in chair, stay in the chair. So when I get writing and I kind of get all this electrical energy running through me, I can literally scooch my chair over, reach the guitar. I can kick on the amplifier with my toes and wail on it for about 5 minutes, and then put it back and then go back to work.
Are you more of a power chords guy or an open chords person?
Power chords. I just, I'm terrible. I'm a blues guy. I know a half a dozen kind of cool sounding blues riffs that I can play, but if someone says, all right, let's jam, I'm gonna be completely lost.
What you just said sounds like, and yes, his last name is spelled differently, but it sounds like Mark Maron's approach to blues guitar, where he knows those 8 riffs that he can lead in with. And those are really impressive 8 riffs, I have to say.
I didn't know that, but I have been mistaken for Mark Maron before. If I let myself go a little bit more and cut back I actually spent an entire dinner with somebody once who thought I was Mark Maron, kept telling me what a big fan they were, and I was very touched. And then at one point I said, "You think I'm Mark Maron, don't you?"
Well, Michael, thank you for your time. Really glad to see that there's no drought in new material. When you can survive the life of a war correspondent and successfully move into the directing realm without being burnt out or jaded, that unto itself is an accomplishment. But actually making all these things that happen, wow.
Making a film is a war. It is. It's very similar to trying to tell a story while people are shooting at you.
Exactly. And congratulations to your wife's story in being a future motion picture. So looking forward to that as well, and have a wonderful rest of the day in the meantime.
All right. Thank you very much.
Paltrocast.